Today we're going to be exploring the Rust programming language. So I'm in the website. You can see Rust, a language empowering everyone to build reliable and efficient software. So we're going to explore what Rust is. We're going to install it on our computer and also just learn a little bit more about it. So let's just get started. Right in here we could see, in the website you could see why Rust. So there's different reasons like performance, reliability, and productivity. So if you see performance aspect, Rust is blazingly fast and memory efficient with no runtime or garbage collector. Okay? Unlike Java, which has a garbage collector, it has no garbage collector. It can power performance, it can power performance critical services, run on embedded devices, and easily integrate with other languages. So this is very fast. Reliability, Rust rich type system and ownership model guarantee memory safety and thread safety, enabling you to eliminate many classes of bugs at compile time. And then productivity, Rust has great documentation, a friendly compiler with useful error messages, and top-notch tooling. This is awesome. An integrated package manager and build tool, smart multi-editor support with auto completion and type inspections, and auto formatter, and more. So this is some of the reasons why Rust. So we're just going to click on get started. You can see I'm in the official website, and in here, get started quickly, set up Rust development environment and write a small app. We're going to write a hello world app in Rust. So installing Rust, you can try Rust online in the Rust playground without installing anything on your computer. So you could just try Rust without installing. Let me just open up this in a new tab. Also, Rust Up. So Rust Up, the Rust installer and version management tool. So the primary way that folks install Rust is through a tool called Rust Up, which is a Rust installer and a version management tool. It looks like you're running Windows, so it just detected my operating system, the website. To start using Rust, download the installer, then run the program and follow the on-screen instructions, normally what you'd see everywhere. You may need to install the Visual Studio C++ build tools when prompted to do so. If you are not on Windows, see other installation methods. This is important, Visual Studio C++ build tool, so I'm just having this up in another tab. But in the meantime, what we're going to do is we're going to download Rust Up, the exe file for our operating system. So you can see there's Linux as well, but we're going to just go out Windows subsystem for Linux, but we're just going to use this download setup. So I'm going to use the 64-bit version. Just going to install it in this download section and just save it. So now you can see it's downloaded. I open it up and just click on double click and it's gonna say okay. So it says over here Rust Visual C++ prerequisites. Now what is this stuff? It says over here Rust requires a linker and a Windows API libraries, but they don't seem to be available in my computer, right? So we don't have that. These components can be acquired through a Visual Studio installer. Quick install via the Visual Studio Community Installer, free for individuals, academic uses, and open source. Manually install the prerequisites for enterprise and advanced users. Don't install the prerequisites if you're targeting the GNU ABI. So what we're going to do is we're going to click on the first one, which is one. So info downloading Visual Studio installer, and it's going to download it for us. So you can see over here, it's downloading. We'll just click on yes. It's going to take some time. Before you get started, you need to set up a few things so that you can configure installation. We'll just say continue. It's going to install Visual Studio installer for us. It's pretty big, but hopefully it will be downloaded quickly because I have some fast internet connection. So we're going to have to wait a little bit. And at the meantime, you can look at the Rust playground over here, and you could see this is their official Rust playground right here. And you can see over here there's this FN, which means function, main, and then you could see over here there's this println exclamation mark hello world. And if I run this button over here, you could see this execution is happening. And over here on the bottom, you could see compiling playground, and then over here finished dev unoptimized plus debugging info, and then you can see in 0.15 seconds, 0.51 seconds, we have hello world over here. So this is what basically came out from here. So this is normally everything efficient. You can see run, build, test, ASM, LLVM, IR, MIR, HIR, and WASM. So the thing is that we're going to learn all of this together. So what you can see over here, we have run. This is just build and run the code showing the output equivalent to cargo run. This is going to be the command to run a REST application. It's called cargo space run. And then the building the command, it's basically build the code without running it, equivalent to cargo space build. So if I just say like cargo space run, that means it's going to build and then run it. And if I just say cargo space build, it's just going to build it. It's not going to run it. And if I want to test it, let's say build the code and run all the tests equivalent to cargo space test. So it's going to build and then test it. An ASM build and show the resulting assembly code. So basically, remember, you know that code is basically translated to different levels. It's assembly is also very close to machine, but it's not exactly like machine. Everything that should be there. But right now, at the meantime, you can see my Visual Studio installer has installed. We'll install the frameworks, SDKs, and tools that you'll need. You can add more later using the Visual Studio installer. You could see that this could change it to the dark mode, and you could see MSVC version 143 VS 2022 C++ x64 to x86 build tools, which is the latest, and then we have Windows 11 SDK. So you can see over here we have a total space required, which is 5.12 GB, and I have the download size as 1.3. So I know it's pretty big file, and we're just gonna have to leave it on in the background, so once it's ready to install, we could run it. But at the meantime, probably in this first video, we might not be able to see this working locally on our machine, but we're going to use the Rust playground to write some basic programs. All right, so over here you can see, over here we're just exploring this playground, and we had these options, and there's a lot more, but right now we just looked at the top 3 or something. And if you look at the debug, you could see over here we have build with debug information without optimizations, and we have release build with optimizations turned on. Okay, so these are 2 modes you could choose, and these are just choose optimization level. So release will allow you to build with optimizations turned on, just a little better, and debug is build with debug information without optimizations. And now that you have stable, choose the Rust version. You have stable channel, build using the stable version, which is 1.75.0 as of what I'm recording right now. It's going to upgrade in the future, but you'll always see it as the stable channel. Beta channel is always build using the beta version, which is 1.76. Actually, it's not stably correct right now, but you could use it. It's the one that's pretty new, but it's not stable. Nightly channel, and build using the nightly version, which is 1.77, but we're going to keep it with the stable one. And over here you can see edition, which is 2021, and this 2024 will select nightly Rust, but we have backtrace and all that stuff. And you can see over here we have the share button, and this allows for a permalink to the Git playground, direct link to the gist, embedded code and link, and open a new thread in the Rust user forum. So if you look at the direct link to the gist, I clicked on this. You can see now we have this gist created now, and then we have rust-play playground.rs. This is the extension for a Rust program. You have to write rs, and you can see over here playground.rs, and you have this function main, and then we have print ln exclamation hello world. So this is cool, and C++ build tool. It's still installing, and it's going to probably take a little bit of time, but let's go back to the playground and let's just test out some cool code. So okay, this is great, and let's go over here, and I'm going to say Rust programming language. I'm just going to search on Google, and let's see, you can see this is the first website, which is the official one, so it's going to tell you what to do. So Rust-lang. And you can see over here, you have learn. So we'll just click on learn. And you can see over here, get started with Rust, read the book, go do the Rust links course, and check out Rust by example. Now over here, you can see that there's the documentation, read the core documentation. All of this documentation is also available locally using the Rust up space doc command, which will open up these resources for you in your browser without requiring a network connection. Okay, so essentially, when we have it locally installed, we could just say rust up space doc. It's going to give us the documentation for Rust. Now we have a comprehensive guide to the Rust library, standard library APIs. The standard library, guide to the Rust additions, cargo book, and then we have a lot of cool things. But we're just going to click on the standard library, the comprehensive guide to the Rust standard library. And then this is the create std. Okay, so now we have the Rust standard library is the foundation of portable Rust software, a set of minimal and battle-tested shared abstractions for the broader Rust ecosystem. It offers core types like vector T and option T, library-defined operations on language primitives, standard macros, I/O, and multi-threading, among many other things. STD is available to all Rust creates by default. Therefore, so it basically creates, okay, by default. Therefore, the standard library can be accessed in use statements through the path std, as in use standard : env. How to read this documentation, and what is the standard library documentation, contributing changes to the documentation or to the Rust standard library. Okay, containers and collections. This is all information, but I'm actually looking for just like getting started. Edition guide, cargo book. Read the book. Affectionately nicknamed the book the Rust programming language will give you an overview of the language from first principles. I like this one. You'll build a few projects along the way, and by the end you'll have a solid grasp of the language. I think this is what we need. And then we have alternatively Rustlings guides you through downloading and setting up the Rust toolchain, and teaches you the basics of reading and writing Rust syntax on this command line. It's an alternative to Rust by example that works with your own environment. So this is the Rust programming language book, which is this one, and this is essentially what we need. And essentially we're going to be doing our video in this part. So we're going to use the Rust programming language book. But look and see, you can see that if you're reading multiple hundreds of pages about a language isn't your style, then Rust by example has you covered. While the book talks about code with a lot of words, RBE shows off a bunch of code, Rust by example, and keeps the talking to a minimum. It also includes exercises. So it's good if reading multiple hundreds of pages without a language isn't your style. So basically reading multiple hundreds of pages without a language isn't your style, then Rust by example has you covered. So essentially, like, it's not a lot of just words and words and words. It's more code too, so that you could understand and look by example. The Rust programming language, this version of the text assumes you're using Rust 1.67.1 released that time or later. See the installation section of chapter 1 to install or update Rust. The HTML format is available online at this, and offline with installations of Rust made with Rust up and then run Rust up space docs -f book to open. Several community translations are also available. The text is available in paperback and ebook format from No Starch Press. Now the thing is, this is just there, but we're going to go in the installation section, so the installation section of chapter 1, and this just tells us like how you install this on Rust. So the first step is to install Rust. We'll download Rust through Rust Up, a command line tool for managing Rust versions and associated tools. You'll need an internet connection for the download. Essentially, you could use the command line to download Rust. We have curl -f proto, and this is the installing Rust Up on Linux or Mac OS, right? Rust is installed now, great. But installing Rust Up on Windows, to do this, you have to, on Windows, go to this website. So normally this website that we already went on, and follow the instructions for installing Rust. At some point in the installation, you'll receive a message explaining that you'll also need the MSVC, so Microsoft Visual Studio Code build tools. So MSVC, I'm not sure what that means, but Microsoft, I know Visual Studio or something. Build tools for Visual Studio 2013 or later. So you need the MSVC build tools. Okay, and then to require the build tools, you'll need to install this thing, which is Visual Studio 2022. This is happening right now in the back end, behind the scenes. When asked which workloads to install, include desktop and development with C++. So basically, these are the setup configuration, and I'm going to have to select desktop development with C++, the Windows 10 or 11 SDK. It gave us 11. You could see over here, essentially it was downloading right now, you can see on the command line. And then after that, the English language pack component, along with any other language pack of your choosing. The rest of this book uses commands that work in both cmd.exe and PowerShell. If there are specific differences, we'll explain which to use. Now, troubleshooting is some of the troubleshooting part, but let's look at the hello world part right here. So this is just the installed Rust, and we already did this step already. So right now, it's still working on. Hello world. Now that you've installed Rust, it's time to write your first Rust program. In traditional, when learning a new language, to write a little program that prints the, okay, it's traditional when learning a new language to write a little program. So it's traditional when learning a new language to write a little program that prints the text hello world to the screen. So we'll do the same here. So you can see over here, there's some note, creating a project directory. So normally when you want to create a Rust program, you would have to put a mkdir. This means create a directory folder. So they just created a folder called projects, and they went inside the folder, which is change directory, inside the projects, created another folder called hello world, and inside they went to the hello world folder. For Windows CMD, enter this. So make directory, and then we have user profile, and then projects. So essentially this user profile normally means what user you're on. So if I go on CMD right now, we're talking about this. GNG is my user profile. You're going to have your own. And then inside, you just create a folder called projects. And then you go inside the projects folder, create a folder called hello world, and go inside the hello world folder. Writing and running a Rust program. So we have over here. Now open the main.rs file you just created and enter the code in listing 1.1. So basically, you create a main.rs file and you just write this. And this should run the code. I'm going to test this out. So I'm over here. I have this Rust folder. I'm going to open up CMD. I typed it wrong. So I'm going to open up CMD in my directory. I'm going to go code dot because I have Visual Studio Code. And over here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into this. I'm going to create a new file called main.rs. This is a Rust file. Now we're going to have this, and function fn. Okay, for fn main, and I believe it's like this, print ln, and then we have hello world. I believe this is how you write it. Let's just compare it. I think it's fn print line and then an exclamation mark. So let's see what it says. So we have fn. Okay, where are we? Okay, so if you look into this, let me just, okay, there. Okay, we have fn main print ln hello world. Okay, we got it right. Now what we want to do is just run it. Of course, I don't have anything installed. I'm not sure how this is going to work. So let's see. We don't have anything installed. But basically, it's cargo main dot rs. It's not going to work 100%. And the command for that is cargo, I think, run, but that's also not going to work. So let's see if there's anything in Visual Studio. I'm just doing this like for the first time. I might look into extensions and see if there's anything available for Rust. So Rust, let's see, Rust. Okay, we don't have any extension, looks like. Okay, there is. There's this official, I mean, I'm not sure what this is, but let's see. Okay, so this is an extension. It has one. Okay, this has 2 points of Rust Analyzer. Okay, there's this one. Okay, let's look at these two. So what we have here is this one, which is the Rust programming language. Okay, and it says the Rust language support for. Essentially, the extension provides supports for the Rust programming. It is recommended over and replaces Rust lang Rust. So code completion and imports insertion, go to definition. So it's basically, you know, like those kind of auto, you know, typing things. So quick start, all the Rust Analyzer extension. So basically, it's installing. You know, it's not gonna do much because it doesn't run. I mean, it can't run because Rust C is not recognized an internal external command. So we're gonna have to install Rust right now, and that's the ultimate goal here. So we're gonna just go back here. Okay, so in the meantime, you can see a program that prints hello world. Save the file and go to your terminal window in your or Linux or Mac OS. Enter the following commands to compile and run the file. So we have this, and then Rust C, and then we have main.rs. That's how you basically do it. So essentially, it's called. If you look at dir, I have a file which is main.rs. I don't even have Rust C, so Rust doesn't even exist. So Rust C won't even exist. So I don't have it. but we're gonna, get it downloaded. But you can see over here we have anatomy of a Rust program. It tells you what it is. Let's review this Hello World program in detail. Here's the first piece of the puzzle. We have this, and just this line defines a function named main. That's all. Okay, so we have the body of the main function holds the following code, and that's what's printing on the terminal screen. That's all. Compiling and running for separate steps. Rust C main.rs, and then we have ls main and then main.rs. So essentially, we have this. If you have a C or C++ background, you'll notice that this is similar to GCC or CLang. After compiling successfully, Rust outputs a binary executable on Linux, Mac OS, and PowerShell on Windows. You can see the executable by entering the ls command in your shell. You'll see the main.rs, so main. Okay, this is the executable main. On Linux and Mac OS, you'll see two files. With PowerShell on Windows, you'll see the same three files that you would see using CMD. With CMD on Windows, you would enter the following. So you basically have main exe, and there's this pdb file, and then there's this rs. This shows the source code file with the rs extension, the executable file main.exe on Windows, but main on other platforms. And then, okay, so this is great. Perfect. Okay, so this is the first step. I mean, we ran the code. You can see it on the playground. So this is how it runs. You can see it running, and it runs the Hello World program. We can move on to the next part of this tutorial, where it's just Hello Cargo, and we're going to create a project with Cargo, and we're going to explore it out further. And in the meantime, I'll have all of this installed and locally installed, and I'll show you the process of how to have Rust running locally on your machine. Okay, so stick around and see you in the next one. Peace out.